Yo, what's up, everybody? It is Izzy back with another episode of the Q&A. This workout was pretty shit, but I actually think the Q&A was pretty good. So, with that said, go smash the like button before you listen to it. Do it. Is there any conclusion to the higher volume experiment after JP's feedback? So, for those of you who weren't following the Q&A back in winter, I asked Jordan Peters, trained by JP, if he had ever done 1 set per exercise in his split. And he said, yes, he had tried that, and he got better strength gains that way, but worse hypertrophy results. So this prompted me to reevaluate some of the volumes that I was using in my own programs. And I actually went a completely different direction rather than increasing per session volume. If you are undertraining your productive recovery capacity, you have 2 options that you can do. Number 1, the obvious one, is to increase your per session volume. I didn't do that. What I did instead was I increased my session frequency for all muscle groups. Because when I started doing bodybuilding training, I just sort of assumed that I wouldn't be able to recover from a full body split because I was too advanced. As the last few months have shown, that was incorrect. So the conclusion to the higher volume experiment, if you even want to call it that, if there is any conclusion, is that JP was, in a sense, correct. I could have benefited from doing more stuff because that's been proven to be true by the fact that instead of training most of these muscle groups once every 5 days, I'm now training them every other day. And I've been doing that since April. And I'm basically at all-time levels of strength pretty much across the board, or close enough, really. And I'm 20 pounds lighter than when I hit those numbers the first time. And I'm not on cycle right now. So, I would say overall it's been productive. And my conclusion is that obviously there's going to be a range of productive volumes. And for a lot of people, 1 set for an exercise, if they have good technique and good responsiveness to training, might be on the lower end of the range where you get results. But for most people, you'll probably get a little bit more results with a few more sets. Thoughts on metabolic stress hypertrophy. So if you are evidence-based, going by the current evidence, there is no evidence that shows metabolic stress is a causal factor for hypertrophy. Only mechanical tension does that. Metabolic stress and pump are simply correlated to hypertrophy. Do you agree with Jordan Peters' split model that has you progressing from full body to upper lower to push-pull legs to body part split, even though you've been able to progress on full body for a while now? Me being able to progress on a full body split doesn't disprove that model at all. Jordan Peters himself was using a full body split 3 years ago. What it really shows is that the majority of you are using splits that are needlessly advanced because you don't have your outside recovery variables put together. And that's why you can't handle programs that would be more productive for you. The number 1 reason that most people are novices or intermediates is because they don't handle their sleep and nutrition well. The number 1 difference between them and quote-unquote advanced athletes is that they handle their outside processes with excellence. Second, the big issue here is that you cannot conflate splits with frequency. For example, there is the implication in this question that a full body split is something that has someone training every muscle group every other day. But you don't have to set up full body like that. I have people, for example, doing a push-pull split where on the push day, maybe they do quads, and then on the pull day, they do legs, but it's an upper body prioritization. That's technically a full body split. And you could even be doing something like push-pull legs and hitting side delts every other day. So your split doesn't determine your frequency. All that said, I do generally agree that as you get stronger and stronger, your frequency will need to decrease. That said, it's still relative to the muscle group, and you don't have to have every single muscle in your body on the same frequency. In fact, it doesn't make much sense at all. You'll find, for example, most people need less hamstring frequency than calf frequency forever. In your experience, what is easier to program and train for, bodybuilding or powerlifting? In terms of programming, this is not even close. It's powerlifting by a country mile. In powerlifting, you have to intelligently manage volume, exercise selection, relative intensity, and periodization to maximize multiple qualities. In bodybuilding, you literally only care about building muscle, nothing else. So there's barely any periodization in bodybuilding. like occasional deloads, changing out exercises when they get stale, and maybe some differences in programming depending on your nutritional status. But it's really straightforward to the point where an app can and does do it very easily. Powerlifting programming is much harder. Now, as far as training goes, I don't know. I would say chronically in the long term, powerlifting is going to be harder to train for. You have to push through more aches and pains. You have to push through more monotony. I think you're going to deal with more injuries. I think the risk of psychological burnout is much higher because you have to do very specific things to get better at a very specific contest. Whereas bodybuilding training, I think, is more acutely difficult, especially with higher reps. Like doing a set of 30 on leg press is going to be harder in the moment than anything you do in powerlifting. Like a max set of 3 on squats is scary, sure, but it's not necessarily physically hard like a set of 30. I have been lifting for 5 years with extreme consistency, intensity, and intelligence. I have a 285 bench and a small chest. Will I just never have a big bench or a big chest? Honestly, you are probably delusional about the quality of your process. Most novices and intermediates are. How many days out of the year do you wake up without an alarm clock? What percentage of days are you going to bed and waking up within 1 hour of your optimal time? Do you track micronutrients? Do you track macronutrients? What percentage of days are you hitting your micros and macros within a 5% tolerance? And I promise you, man, and this is no the answers for me to all those questions are over 95% every single year. Have you ever had a coach? Have you ever had someone who potentially has more knowledge and experience than you, audit your programming, audit your process, audit your form to see if you're full of shit? Because if you are that adherent and that compliant with sleep and nutrition, that is the next step to figure out if you're doing anything massively wrong. With that said, everybody, I will be back in 2 days to go for a 6-plate squat for reps. That'll be interesting. And I guess I have to do these ads. So if you guys enjoyed the Q&A, please remember to like the video when it comes out on YouTube. If you want to become a more substantial supporter, you can become a Patreon for $1 a month. If you'd like to work with me directly for coaching or check out any of my ebooks, go ahead and DM me on Instagram or look for the link in my bio on Instagram, and the same links will be in the description box on YouTube. Until next time, peace.